But Kenny Ducey, you've already heard him. Erik Halterman is here as well. These are our baseball bros today. So try to focus here, Kenny. It's MLB Price Check. Which players do you like on tonight's 9-game main slate at the following price ranges? So start me off with a pitcher at like $8,000 or higher.
I'm going to go much higher than that. Freddie Peralta at 10.5K is my guy that I'm going with here. He's got a great matchup with the Chicago Cubs. Now, he is one of the prime suspects in the sticky stuff scandal. You know, there's guys on TikTok that have been tracking this thing for like months, and his fingers stick to his glove. But you know what? He's looked great. He had 10 strikeouts in his last start. He's facing the Chicago Cubs, and the Chicago Cubs are a very, very bad team, which I know that Erik can attest to. 203 over the last week they're hitting, 36.7% strikeout rate. 36.7%. That is like unheard of for a big league team to strike out that much. That is who the Chicago Cubs are. They are 3 true outcome kings. They just strike out a whole bunch. By the way, Chris Bryant, where is he? Does anyone know where Chris Bryant is? The guy has had like, what does he have? 3 hits since coming back? This team is just really not hitting the ball at all. Freddie Peralta, 10 strikeouts last time out against a weak lineup. There's another weak lineup. Maybe when he runs into like the Dodgers, you know, he's not going to be quite the trusty guy that he was. But right now, he's still throwing, upper 90s. I'm still rocking with Freddie Peralta here among some pretty bad high-priced options, frankly.
Okay, Erik, who are you rocking with? Pitcher at $8,000 or higher.
Yeah, I'm actually going to end up in the same place. I think among the other expensive pitchers, Lucas Giolito is probably the next best one that I would consider. But Peralta is my top guy, even at a 5-digit price. When I look to pay that kind of price for somebody, I'm looking at elite strikeout upside, a bad opposing lineup, and pitcher-friendly park. He doesn't have that latter one in Milwaukee. It's one of the tougher places to pitch in the league. But when you strike out as many guys as he does, I care less about park factors because it doesn't really matter how small the park is if they're never hitting it in the first place. He's striking out 36.4% of opposing batters, which is the kind of number he can sustain, given that he struck out 37.6% last year. As Kenny mentioned, there's maybe some sticky stuff concerns, but he doesn't seem to be losing anything. And the Cubs are last in WRC plus in the month of June. Just nothing really going right for that lineup at the moment. So that's enough. I mean, I wish this game was taking place in a more pitcher-friendly park, but given that the other expensive options all have a decent amount of questions about them, I'm on Peralta as well.
Who are you on then, Erik, for a hitter over $5,000?
Yeah, I'm liking Yordan Alvarez at 5,800. Really liking pretty much any of the expensive Astros who are looking like, you know, quite possibly the best team in the league, best offense in the league for sure this season. And when you get those kind of bats against Thomas Eshelman, things could get ugly. Eshelman has just 2 starts this year, hasn't been anything close to good. Over the course of his career, he has a 5.45 ERA, and there's no reason to believe things are about to get better. He doesn't walk a lot of guys, but I think that's because they've already hit it over the fence. Just a 6.4% career walk rate, but a 12.1% career strikeout rate is just about half what league average is these days. You can get by with a low strikeout rate if you get a lot of ground balls, but he has a 33.1% ground ball rate, so just nothing really that suggests he's a big league starter. Alvarez hitting 302 with 13 homers on the year. He's now played 154 career games, so basically 1 full season. And he has 41 homers, 131 RBI, and a lifetime batting average of 307. This guy's still just 24 years old, too. I think there's a lot more to come from him. And we could see one of his biggest days of the season against Eshelman.
Where are you going in this department, Kenny?
Yeah, I'll be a little more. It's pretty simple here. Trey Turner, $5,600. Look, he's going up against Jared Eichhoff, who we all know stinks. We all know Jared Eichhoff is a bad pitcher. 7 of the last 9 games, Trey Turner's been able to get you double digits in the DKFP department. And he's going up against a team in the Mets, which he owns. He'll probably get on base a few times. James McCann will be catching. He has a really terrible arm, so I like his stolen base upside as well here. We all know that can be a big contributor here in the fantasy point department. So I do like Trey Turner quite a bit. Guy's been seeing the ball incredibly well. I like a lot of those Nationals against Jared Eichhoff. High implied total here. And I think that both offenses are probably worth a look, but, you know, the Nationals just have the better high-priced names.
What about a value bat?
Value bat, I'm going to Christian Walker at $3,100. Yeah, I know, you know, not the sexiest name. This is not the best team to be picking in daily fantasy. But look at a guy who's just over $3,000, really, really cheap. He has 6 hits in his last 4 games, 2 multi-hit games in there. He moved up to 5th in the order. He was slumping. He's been locked in as the cleanup hitter for the Diamondbacks. He was slumping. He was dropped to 6th, and then he really started to hit. Moved up to 5th last game. He could be back in the cleanup spot as early as tonight. And when you look at the matchup here, it is fantastic. He's a right-handed power bat against Wade LeBlanc, another guy who just really scares you, right? 85 miles an hour with that unhittable cutter, comes back with 87-mile-an-hour sinker. I mean, that is just really ridiculous, right? You can't hit 87. But no, in all seriousness, Wade LeBlanc has really not struck anybody out, which is fine when you're a sinker ball pitcher because you just get the ground balls. Well, his hard hit rate is almost 50%. He comes into this with an expected ERA over 6. He's going to get lit up by a Diamondbacks offense that just hits left-handed pitching. And the prime suspect I'm looking at here, if I'm not looking at Ketel Marte up near $5,000, is Christian Walker at 3,100. He's seeing the ball really well right now.
Erik, value bat, please.
Yeah, I was surprised to see this guy in this category, but it's Cody Bellinger at 3,900. There's 2 types of value bats. There's the guys who are always cheap, who are hitting well these days, and there's the guys who are having down years, but in ordinary seasons would be way more expensive, and that's Bellinger. And I really don't think we should overreact to his 21 bad games this season. They have been legitimately bad. He's hitting just 233, and his expected batting average of 239 says that that's basically deserved. But again, 21 games, he's missed time with a broken leg, a hamstring injury, and he seems to be turning things around now, homering in back-to-back games. And again, this is a guy who you would be totally unsurprised to see up at 5,500. He's one of the best bats in the league from season-long fantasy perspective. He's a perennial first-round pick type guy. So anytime you can get a guy like that for under 4,000, even if there are reasons that he is priced that way based on his performance this year, even if he's facing a guy who I do kind of like, in Anthony DeSclafani, you just don't get this kind of talent this cheap this often. So I would jump at that chance to get him.
Erik, who is someone you are totally fading on tonight's slate?
Yeah, there's a couple of the expensive pitchers. I think we talked about earlier how a lot of the expensive pitchers are kind of shaky. Not really interested in Zach Greinke, given that he's seemingly forgotten how to strike guys out recently. And I'm definitely not going to pay all the way up for Trevor Bauer. He's the one guy who's more expensive than Freddie Peralta. Obviously, when, everything's going right for Bauer, he's, Cy Young winner, but I think he may have had some help with that. He's, widely known as one of the people who was probably using the Sicky stuff, and you could see it in his spin rates. His fastball RPM went from 28.41 in May to 25.82 in June. One of the bigger drops that I've seen, and that's taken a bite out of his ERA with it. 2.24 ERA in May and June, and a 3.55 ERA, 2.24 in April and May, and 3.55 in June. He's also facing a Giants lineup that is very good. Surprisingly, they rank 4th by WRC plus this season. So not going to pay up for him against an offense this good, given that I'm not sure he's quite the Bauer we're used to seeing.
Kenny, what about you? Someone you want nothing to do with tonight?
Yeah, same sort of deal. Trevor Bauer is on my list as well. 10.9K is just a ridiculous price to pay, especially against, I'm really surprised that he's this expensive against one of the best offenses in baseball in the Giants, as Erik touched on. And his spin rates are way, way down. I mean, they've just consistently dropped over the last 4 starts. And he's had one good start in his last 6. So, even dating back to the first couple of starts in that span when his spin rates were relatively normal, still not pitching well. And look, again, it's a guy that still has the velocity. He's still able to, he flashed the strikeout upside last time. But I'm sorry, maybe I'd be looking at him as a speculative GPP play, even at this price, against the worst lineup, because I don't think anyone really trusts him to be a good pitcher anymore. But against the Giants, I mean, this is a team that has hit right-handed pitching so well. They're still just around the top 10 in WRC plus over the last week. They have a lot of talent from the left side. So I do think that this is just a spot that you absolutely want to stay away from. But I don't really agree with Erik as much on Zach Greinke. Still think he's good.
Interesting. Well, Kenny, finally, let's poke over to the sports book, shall we? I mean, what's your favorite bet on this Major League Baseball slate?
Poke over to the sports book. Look, I mentioned it earlier, but I like the Diamondbacks' first 5 run line here, money line, plus 120. I don't like Wade LeBlanc. I think everyone knows, 36 years old, not throwing hard. Everyone knows he's a bad pitcher and he's going to give up runs. And, especially the Diamondbacks, one of the things that they've always done well this year, despite all their struggles, they've hit against left-handed pitching. And even despite the fact that they've lost so many games over the last month, they're still in the top 10 in WRC plus to left-handed pitching. Now, when you look at the other side of the coin, Jake Faria is a guy that I actually used to think is really good. I still think he is. He's getting his second chance here as a starting pitcher. He's probably going to go like 4 innings. So and you're not going to get like a true first 5 where it's both starters going all the way. But I do think that Jake Faria pitches enough in these first 5 innings to make an impact. He's got a great split finger, and this Cardinals offense is just all out of sorts right now. They are quickly falling down the NL Central standings, not hitting the ball well. A lot of their talented guys just not showing up at the plate. We saw Yadier Molina hit into one of the more ridiculous ground outs yesterday against the Pirates. So I really just love fading this offense. Jake Faria has the stuff to be a really good starter. His expected ERA this year good, strikeout rate up. And Wade LeBlanc, 85 and 87, that's what he's throwing at you. And the Diamondbacks can hit that. They have the bats.
Erik, bring us home.
Yeah, just first a quick note on Zach Greinke. He hasn't struck out more than 4 batters in any of his last 5 starts. So while he still may not give up a ton of runs, that's not the kind of fantasy ceiling I'm looking for. But for this specific question, I like the Giants at plus 155 over the Dodgers. Might be a little weird since I said I liked Cody Bellinger, but I think both of those things could be true. I think you can say that the Giants are a lot closer to 50-50 than these plus 155 odds suggest, while also saying that Cody Bellinger himself is significantly underpriced. These two lineups are right next to each other. Giants 4th by WRC plus, Dodgers 3rd. I don't think anybody would have had that coming into the year, but I mean, again, the Giants have just smashed expectations this season, and the Dodgers have been a bit banged up. And some of their top guys like Mookie Betts not necessarily performing up to the expected levels. And the two pitchers, Trevor Bauer is better than Anthony DeSclafani. Even, post sticky stuff, Trevor Bauer is better, but it's not necessarily a huge gap. Like I said, Bauer is down in the month of June, 3.55 ERA, 4.13 FIP. The walk rate is inflated up near 12% too. DeSclafani has been good in the recent past. He had a 3.89 ERA in 2019, so there's precedent for him being a pretty good pitcher. Had a 24% strikeout rate against the 7% walk rate that year, so it looked very for real. Last year, he battled injuries, saw his ERA spike all the way to 7.22, while his strikeout rate crashed to 15.8%. He's got the strikeout rate back up at 23.1% this year and a career high 46.9% ground ball rate. So he's really doing some of everything. That 2.77 ERA will probably rise, but it should rise to still a mid-high 3s completely acceptable level, which is close enough to what this version of Bauer is that I would still probably say the Dodgers are favored, but not by plus 155.